The controversy over Florida's new education standards is intensifying after Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill called the Stop Woke Act last year. The changes include teaching middle schoolers that some enslaved people actually benefited from slavery because it taught them skills. Nancy Cordes is following this at the White House. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Wendy. You know, this debate may have started in Florida, but it has now landed squarely in the middle of the presidential race.
I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it.
Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis tried to distance himself from the curriculum controversy, but it didn't work.
I didn't do it, and I'm not involved in it, are not the words of leadership.
Florida's new history teaching guidelines, approved last week, stem from a 2022 law Governor DeSantis called the Stop Woke Act.
Governor DeSantis started this fire with the bill that he signed.
The new standards say Florida students should be taught about the harsh conditions slaves endured, but also about how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
They're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
That comment drew a swift rebuke from fellow Republican presidential candidate Will Hurd, who tweeted, "Slavery wasn't a jobs program that taught beneficial skills. It was literally dehumanizing." NAACP President Derek Johnson.
We all must stand together as a nation to ensure we don't find ourselves going backwards, that we stand united as a country and not try to remake history.
Two of the authors of the guidelines say they proudly stand behind them and that they were, quote, developed using a methodical process within our work group.
They want to replace history with lies.
The nation's first Black and Asian American vice president traveled to Florida Friday to condemn the new standards in person.
I am deeply concerned. Because let's be clear, I do believe this is not only about the state of Florida. There is a national agenda afoot.
And the topic is likely to come up again when Vice President Harris addresses a Latino conference in Chicago today. As far as Governor DeSantis is concerned, he is defending the new standards, arguing that they are probably the most robust African-American history teaching standards in the country. Wendy?
Nancy, since this change took place, has there been any effect on the DeSantis campaign or his popularity?
I think it's too soon to say because this all sort of exploded at the end of last week. Certainly, he's getting a lot of unwanted attention from his fellow Republican presidential candidates. That's the kind of heat you never want to face. And for someone who has touted his executive credentials, who has said that he's making so much positive change in Florida, to then say that he doesn't know anything about this and he had nothing to do with it is definitely something that his Republican opponents are picking up on.
And this trip by the vice president was fairly spontaneous, right? So what's the strategy there?
The strategy is to turn her into a one-woman rapid response team, if you will. In fact, she was the one, we're told, who said to her aides on Thursday night that she wanted to make a change to the schedule and that she wanted to go to Florida to talk about this on the ground in person. And so they had to sort of scramble to make it happen. This is an issue, they say, that is right in her wheelhouse, that she is very comfortable talking about, that she has first-person experience dealing with, and they feel that she is a powerful messenger for the White House when it comes to issues like this. So I think you're going to see more of it going forward, especially in a campaign year.
On a different angle, a new Fox Business poll shows education level is the biggest differentiating factor when it comes to supporting a 2024 GOP primary candidate. So how is this shaping the primary race?
Yeah, this is really interesting. You know, every poll of Republican primary voters obviously shows that former President Donald Trump is in the lead. But when you break it down by education, 57% of those without a college degree who are Republican primary voters say they favor Donald Trump. So a really staggering majority of them prefer Donald Trump. Interestingly, when you ask all primary voters, or at least when this poll asked all Republican primary voters who they think is most likely to beat Joe Biden next year, almost 50% of them, again, said Donald Trump. Notable because he's the one person in the field who didn't beat Joe Biden the last time around. But clearly he has convinced a lot of voters on the Republican side of the ticket that he can do this time around what he couldn't do last time.
Very interesting. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.